Billy Rybka is gonna make video editing easier for you. He's got a whole YouTube channel dedicated to it. With 112,000 subscribers and over 6.6 million channel views, he's your guy for streamlining the often annoying and tedious process of video editing. He's got tutorials, tips, and tricks. He's got software recommendations and an all-around good vibe. If you're not familiar with video editing, don't despair. We'll be getting into plenty of other fascinating topics related to YouTube and, of course, Billy Rybka's epic YouTube journey. Billy, the first thing I notice is your thumbnails are very aesthetic. Do you make your own thumbnails? I'm going to share my screen for the viewers so that they can check them out, but tell me about your thumbnails.
Yeah, no, I don't make those. I used to make them. But I think when it came down to like delegation, where I'm like, you know what? Like, am I like spending my time as well as I could be? I was like, no, like if I'm gonna keep doing thumbnails, if I'm gonna keep doing this YouTube thing, I have to start delegating to other people. So like I did. I think I don't know, I think the first one that I like everything before I had an ink transition video, I think. Everything before was me. And after that, I don't think I've made a thumbnail
Hmm.
just because it's I'm not great with like Photoshop and I don't think I'm good with video editing. I can make, effects. I can do all that stuff, but I just don't have the patience. I think it's more like that,
Yeah, I
right?
think,
Like I want to see
yeah.
video.
hmm It's interesting. Some people I know love making thumbnails. Some people, it's with you, it kind of their least favorite part of the process. Yeah, it's YouTube's funny. There's so many different aspects to it, right? Like thumbnails are crucial. They're super important. But there's also the whole thing. Well, you got to make a video. You got to edit it and put it together. So if you don't like making thumbnails, you can always hire somebody like you. What has been your experience with having somebody else make your thumbnails? Was that easy for you? Was that weird for you?
Well, so I think it was pretty straightforward. Like there have been times where it's like, all right, what do you do? Because like, how do you best visually represent this thing that we're doing? And sometimes we hit the mark. Other times we like miss and have to try again. But I think the hardest thing about that was I used a service in the beginning called Monster Thumbnails, I think, like little monster thumbnails, and they were fine. It was just that I mean, I don't know. I just kind of wanted like to know the person who was actually doing that. You know what I mean? So I could have like more insight and like I want to make it be like the same thumbnail artist every time because sometimes they get like switched around and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? Like I ended up like just going on Fiverr and getting a guy off that. And
Aha.
then when I hired somebody, uh, he ended up being able to do graphic design really well. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, maybe I should take a page out of your book and stop doing my own thumbnails. But for now, so one thing that fascinates me about your channel. Okay, so I know lots of YouTubers. Most of them use Adobe Premiere Pro. I also use Adobe Premiere. You, however, most of your channel is DaVinci Resolve, which is software that I've heard of, but I really don't know much about it. So, I mean, sell me on DaVinci Resolve. Like, why should I switch to Premiere? Because every day when I use
Mhm.
Premiere, I hate it and it annoys me. And I don't know if it's Premiere itself or is there better software out there? And it sounds like the answer is yes. Tell me about it, please.
No, it's Premiere. So I used Premiere for like 2.5 years, and I started editing on Sony Vegas, right? Back in the day, I freaking 15 years old. I found somebody to like get it cracked for me, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk about that much. But anyway, so
No, no.
uh, yeah, sins of our past, right? Yeah. Anyway, so I used Premiere Pro, and my big reason for leaving was that it kept crashing all the time. Like all the freaking time, it would crash, and then it would also like sometimes autosave a corrupted file. So then like your autosave is ruined. So
Mm.
like after I lost like two really big projects, like massive projects, so like 50, 60 hours a piece,
Oh my
right? I was like, I'm
God.
freaking done. I know.
Oh,
It was like it was huge projects. Spent like weeks. Um anyway, so I was just like I'm done, right? And at that point, DaVinci Resolve 16 had like come out. So people were like, there was this guy, his name was Zebra Zone, and he made a video about like why he switched to DaVinci Resolve from Premiere after like 10 years. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna do it, right? I'm just gonna like jump and make the commitment. Of course, with some research, right? Because if it didn't have what I needed, then I wouldn't be able to do it. So yeah, I did it, and DaVinci Resolve, like, it's more stable. It utilizes your GPU and CPU,
ooh.
right? So it's not gonna like so it's fast. Um, I mean, you have like that hardcore color grading side of it. Like the software was meant for color graders originally, right? So it's still like the industry standard for color grading softwares. And then, I mean, there's a free version, like a straight free version, but there's also the paid version, but it's a one-time payment. It's not monthly,
How much is it?
right? $300.
Oh wow. Wow, it's like
300 bucks.
I think it's 600 a year for the Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah, $300 one time. You get literally everything. There is essentially inside of it, right? There's the editor. So there's essentially Premiere Pro. But there's also this thing called Fusion, which is their version of After Effects, which is more open sourced than After Effects actually is. Um, and then they have like a straight audio section in there, right? So I I mean, it's essentially Adobe Audition.
Mm-hmm.
So they have all these programs in one thing, and they all work really well together.
Wow, that sounds amazing. You're kind of making me want to download it and give it a try, especially if it's free. Like the free version at least.
Literally,
Like I don't know, Premiere.
there's no watermark in the middle either. There's no watermark on the stuff you make. Like I know people who have professional careers with the free version.
Wow, wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know what I'm doing after this interview. Okay, so you've been doing this for about 2 years. Is that correct?
Yep. Just
So
about. I think a little more at this point.
So your first video is called "Locked Out Daily Vlog." So you were
Oof.
locked out of your house and you couldn't get back in. But then all of a sudden, there's another video about I forgot a $2,000 camera, and so you kind of started with this vlog style, and then you transitioned into video editing content. Tell me about that
Yep.
transition.
Yeah, well, okay, so first off, like this is not my first YouTube channel. I've tried this 3 times before, and it just didn't work, right? Like I started all this like YouTube stuff when I was 15. So I'm 25 now, and that's weird to say. But anyway, I'm 25. So I've been at this for a while, and with that whole like transition of like vlogs to video editing, I mean, I think the idea was just like, man, you just got to start. And like, I thought maybe I'll just try daily vlogging, right? Because I didn't know what to actually make videos on, but I knew I was supposed to make videos because I just kept thinking about it over and over and over
Right.
again, right? It was like that thing that was just in you. So I was like, I gotta make videos. So I tried and realized daily vlogging is horrible and I don't ever want to do it. And I don't envy people who actually did it, like Casey Neistat. Like, that's a brutal time. So, I was like, okay, that's not my thing, right? But I was like encouraged by being small. Like, I knew eventually, okay, I'd grow a channel. That's just, I knew I would do that. But I was like, hey, I'm in a great opportunity. There's a great opportunity right now to actually learn what I want to do and to figure out what I want to do, right? I'm not cursed with 1 million subscribers and I'm stuck doing this thing, right? I'm free. I have 5 subscribers. I have 20 subscribers. Oh, guess what? My vlogs didn't work. Well, let me just try filmmaking tips.
Hmm.
Great. Did 4 videos about filmmaking tips, and guess what didn't work?
I like that
That.
attitude. I like that attitude a lot because I think a lot of people when they're starting out, they don't have an audience and they feel threatened by that, like they're not being validated, or it's just not worth their time unless they're seeing some real feedback with big numbers. But you've kind of taken the opposite approach where you felt free, and I think that's very wise because and I feel like I've said this a million times on this podcast, which is just, if you want to do YouTube, get started. And like, for you, that mindset of freedom versus, oh, nobody cares, that's very healthy, and that's, I think, where people should try to be when first starting out. So interesting. Okay, and do you feel that your desires with YouTube have changed over the years? So like, is YouTube a business for you? And if so, like, how do you monetize it?
Yeah, so and I just want to like say one more thing about
Sure.
that past topic. So, I think something that like I looked at people like, do you remember, have you ever heard of like Janelle Elena? I think that's what her name was. She made like, I don't know, like 10 videos, right? The first video she made got like 3 million views, right? It was about her in a van living, her van life. She had a
Oh
pet
yes,
snake, right?
yes.
Just super niche life,
Uh huh.
right? Just to like, I think her first video was like how I shower in a van, right? And it was her in a towel. So, she got like millions of views. And then then she posted another video, right? And that one got like 10 million views or some crap like that, right? I mean, blowing up. She had two videos. She got over 2 million subscribers. And then, of course, she posted maybe like 5 or 10 more videos. But like, dude, she didn't have the ability to grow. Like, she grew her influence, but she couldn't sustain it because she didn't build the infrastructure under it. She didn't like know what she wanted to do. She just tried something and it blew up and it had success, but dude, she didn't build. Like, she didn't have the opportunity to like build that foundation.
Yeah, or like make mistakes. And I think when you reach success that early, you end up comparing everything you do to those original numbers, which maybe was just a fluke. And I know exactly the video you're talking about. I had forgotten her name, but I saw the video of her giving like her van tour with her pet snake and all that. And it was a great video. She has great vibes. It's
Oh yeah.
just like, I mean, you can't expect to keep up those kinds of numbers, and that's, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm sure it's hard to compare what you're doing now to what you did before if you're not getting the same amount of views, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, she I'm assuming she burned out because she kind of like fell off the face of the earth, and after like 10 videos, I think maybe she might be back, but at least back then, I know that she kind of dropped off. Anyway, back to your original question.
Mm-hmm. The
How
YouTube
is
business.
YouTube a business? And if so, how do I monetize it? So this is an interesting question because for people who are like starting their YouTube channel now, I would say don't do what I did, actually. Like, I've learned, I feel like a lot of my life has just been like, hey, don't do that again, right? That kind of stuff. You learn by like doing and then failing and whatever. Um, Originally, for the first year, I really didn't build like much business around it, which was like the wrong thing to do, right? Like, I was like, yeah, no, like, I just want to like give as much value as I can and, really grind it and build this like influence and barely put affiliate links because like everybody hates that, right? And I knew that, okay, if I want to build a business, if I want to make money with this, I need to be doing those things and I need to be thinking about products and I need to be thinking about how we're generating income because you need money for the mission, right? And if my mission is to help people edit videos, then how am I going to sustain it?
Yeah, that's always the question, right? Is you want to feel like your time is valuable to a certain degree. So did you like, are ads your main source of revenue? Like, what in what ways do you feel like you've kind of succeeded in monetizing your channel?
Yeah, so I mean, really, like, I'm not gonna lie, ads are not. Ads, I get, I don't know, like quarter of a million views a month, and I think I might make $700. Like I have no problem with throwing money out because it's like petty cash. It's like, okay, whatever, right? I couldn't pay somebody to with that money.
Hmm.
Like I could, but I can't eat off that anyway. But we pretty much haven't really have never been able to like break out of that. I've had to have clients that I do work for. So like yes, I've gained clients from that, right? So I've used YouTube as a funnel to get me clients. But that whole like, hey, sustaining, from YouTube, like that's not really a thing for me, right? I've built a store, right? And I've going hard at the template thing now, and I've been doing that for about a year. And we are seeing, great income from that, but it's taken a lot of work, right? And even to the
Hmm.
point where like, at this point, it's I've actually had to like knock off, or I've had to let some of my employees go because it's like, well, we lost clients or something like that. So it's really been like a rocky road, honestly,
Hmm.
because nobody tells you. I mean, now people are telling you, but back in the day, right, starting, people were not like, hey, this is how you build like a successful business around YouTube. That was still taboo a little.
Definitely. And I think money can make people uncomfortable, but I don't think it should or that it has to.
Right.
There's like a weird, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, at least in the United States, where, you don't really talk about how much you make, or you don't want to talk about how you make money. And that's, if you're not comfortable, then that's totally fair. Clearly you are, but it's okay. I'm just putting it out there. It's okay to talk about these things. So interesting. You sell templates. You have a store, and YouTube has fed into that, and you also have clients. Could you tell us a little more about how you've used YouTube to build your business and what exactly your business is?
Yeah. So uh, now how I used YouTube was, I mean, a lot of the people like they would see me and they would like, hey, can you edit my videos, right? And I really had a specific kind of person I wanted to work with, right? Like I wanted to work with a person who they were business driven, right? So like they're already thinking of this as a business uh, investment, right? Because like we were talking about, some people get discouraged after like one video of not being successful, and it's like, yo, if you have a business mindset, you realize that this is gonna take months, if not years, to build, and you're just willing to put it out there. So, we ended up finding like a reliable client base of like it was just like four people, but they were reliable every single
Mm-hmm.
week, right? Video after video after video. And of course, you would sell them on higher packages and stuff like that, which was where we made most of our money from, right? It was what allowed us to scale our team for more editors. And we were actually beginning to transition back to a full YouTube, like sustainable model when like we actually lost some clients because of their own businesses going under due to COVID
Mm-hmm.
and the restrictions put on that. And that was only a few months back, right? Like that was that time where like stuff was getting a little crazy. So, we ended up having to, all right, close that down for a little bit. But, and I mean, honestly, like I'm not, if I could have my honest, like what I really want is like, I would love to not work with clients because you don't, I mean, I'm not making a video for myself,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be making education. I want to make education. I want to do, this kind of stuff. So, I mean, this is a lot of like, because I've had to reflect a lot, and I'm like, you know what? It's just, this is all like growing pains, and it's all learning, and it's all figuring it out because there really isn't a roadmap, right, to any of this.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'd like to say, like, of course, I followed people like Think Media, right? Like, you've probably heard of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I followed them for a long time and took their courses and did all that stuff, and like, yeah, they help for sure, right? And I 100% am like all about all of their stuff. It's fantastic. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's still it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of you have to have a business plan before you start YouTube, honestly. I would say that's where this is starting to get to.
So your business, just to be clear, you edit videos
Sorry.
for clients essentially. So you have a team. You're essentially an editing house. Is that fair to say? You produce videos. People are like, "Hey, I want to make a video about bloppity blop," and you're like, "Well, I got just the team." Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, I would say that that's what we really were like. We're not really that anymore, right? It's more just me and another guy. We're going hard at the template thing
And
and
so,
like the website side of it.
okay. So tell me more about that, like the website side of it and templates. Like, what is that exactly?
Yeah, so we realized that in our drive to help people like create better and faster videos, we need to give them better templates, right? Let's help them streamline that process more. And we don't want to make like templates that are stupid and like laggy and all that crap. Like, no, we want to help speed everything up. So we're going to make things that actually work for you, right? We want to make it as user friendly. However, we also want to make it as customizable as possible. There's a fine line between that, right? It's like if you
Right.
give somebody too much control, they have no clue how to use it.
Right.
So there's like that funny thing right there. But um, I mean, we're really like going hard at that store side of it, and like there's our, we have some videos right there, and but I mean, we really like what we're doing with this, and have really like essentially from a lot of the ground up, like build this store.
Man, this is awesome, dude. Like, so you're helping people streamline video editing that they're doing themselves, and then I'm sure you use your own templates too when you're editing for clients as well.
Of
So
course.
I mean, you're kind of like the one stop shop for efficiently getting videos out, which is awesome. And I think the fact that you're using DaVinci instead of Premiere, I think is interesting still. Like, it's I think I don't know enough about DaVinci, but maybe there is an edge to that too, where you're kind of ahead of the curve. You're using this new age software, so to speak.
I mean, there's still 2 million people who are looking up DaVinci Resolve a month,
Oh wow.
right? So it's not like it's a small number with like 1,000 or 10,000. Like you still got, I think it's like 2.6 million people like
Hmm.
searching DaVinci Resolve every month.
Hmm.
So eventually, like it's going to, eventually somebody will find my videos, right? Eventually somebody will find my templates. That's the one. So we have better, if you look at like any of the actual DaVinci Resolve stuff, because that's a element pack. I'm still working on updating some of these. This is
Sure.
where like the work comes in, right? If you like view that, you can see like we have a better area, a
Oh
better
yeah.
looking. So it's a thing, right? But it's a lot of work to make all this because, it just is. And I've never built a website before, so I've had to do a lot of learning. And I don't have the money to hire. So I'm like, you know what? Hold my beer. Let's go.
So how have you advertised this? Like, obviously you have your YouTube channel. Is that your main source of advertising? Tell me about your marketing.
Yeah, so we do YouTube channel is definitely a big one. There is like because we've had to downscale, it's kind of like phases now, right? Where I'm like, hey, here's where we are, here's what we have to do to get where we want to be, right? So it's like, okay, let's build, I'm kind of like still in that like website building phase where I'm getting everything really the way I want it. But then I'm kind of like slightly transitioned over to like the marketing phase where I'm like, hey, here is like before I, set the website up the way I wanted it, I had like certain sequences, like automated marketing sequences, like built out, right? When somebody buys a product, they get this email, some upsells, but I didn't really go too hard at that, right? And I wasn't sending out much. So, I'm going to finish the website, then I'm going to like really build out the marketing side, and then I'm going to run ads to the products. But the thing is, I have to have a good website in order to get people to buy something. And if I don't have a good website, which I didn't for a while, then nobody's going to want to buy anything
Hmm.
because it didn't show the products off. It didn't show what the benefits were.
And so when you say you're going to run ads, do you mean YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Google ads? What kind of ads?
Probably, I'm gonna probably start with like Facebook and Google. I haven't played around with YouTube ads. I know a guy who, I mean, he really knows his stuff. So, he's kind of helping me out with like strategizing ads and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea with that.
Awesome. And so is this your full-time job? Like how many hours a week do you put into your business and your YouTube channel kind of all combined?
All right, we're about to get like really interesting here.
Ooh.
So, yes. I don't think I've told anybody this besides like my immediate family and friends and whatever, but like definitely not online. So, when everything kind of hit the fan a few months ago, because I made reference to it, right? I had been, I was like, all right, like, essentially, I failed, right? That's the truth. I failed because I was not able to sustain the amount of income that we needed to keep employees. I failed in that regard. So that was obviously a really big ding to my, pride or ego or whatever, or confidence. Let's use that because I don't like pride. But nonetheless, like that was a really crap thing, and I was like, dang, that sucks. But what can I like? How can I learn fast? But also, how can I like? Because I want to help people, right, in this whole YouTube journey, and that's originally what I kind of wanted to do with my channel, and I feel like I have, right, with speeding up people's editing process. But like, what about getting people clarity and vision and working on all that stuff? Like, how can I help with that? So I mentioned Think Media earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? Let me just freaking apply for an internship, see what happens. Because I have the time now that I've lost literally everything. But let's say I do like a 40-hour thing, right? So what? I still can work on my business, right? Like 40 hours, dude, I was putting that in my sleep for YouTube, right? Like I was on the grind for YouTube, so 40 hours doing that, learning and like learning from the best, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I applied and I got hired actually
Ooh.
as their executive producer.
Oh my God. Wow.
So like I put all the content out on the channel. I do everything like that, which is like super cool. But I'm getting to learn from like Sean Cannell and Heather and these people who made this multi-million dollar, empire of YouTube and who actively help, right? So then I'm like, okay, with this whole thing, right? This whole transition that I've gone through, I was if I had like not joined them, which is fine, right? If I didn't join them, I was totally okay with it. I just would have kept working on my business, and I still am, right? I still work on my business. Um, but and I mean, I still don't think it would have affected my upload schedule. I haven't uploaded like a ton recently because up until a couple of weeks ago, it was a bit of a grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was. That's just the reality of it. With like I, that I kind of lost that thing. So you know what I mean? Like it was this whole thing of like this whole complicated behind the scenes stuff going on. So, I joined them because I'm like, I love what they're doing. I love what they stand for. And I really feel like I can learn from these people.
Definitely. And
And already, like, oh, go ahead.
I think you're smart to have a job outside of YouTube, especially because, in your own words, you felt like you had lost everything or that you had failed. And YouTube is weird because it can be very close to your heart. So when things don't go well, it can really feel like it's the end of the world or that you've
Mhm.
betrayed your soul in some way or that something is wrong with you. But I think when you take a step back and you find other ways to make money that are even if they involve YouTube, if they involve working for somebody else. So in your case,
Yep.
Think Media. It can build your confidence. You can learn new things, get fresh perspectives, and then perhaps most importantly, you aren't relying on YouTube for income anymore. You have a job, so you can just kind of think of YouTube as a passion project and think of it as a thing that you do when you feel like doing it. And more importantly, I think when you feel like you've hit a wall or that you've failed with this, those are the biggest learning opportunities. I felt the same way with my YouTube channel, Treesicle. A few years ago, we were just so sick of producing the same videos on the same game that we had to stop making videos on that game. But then when we did, the views went down, and then it was kind of like, well, are we failures? Is this horrible? What do I do now? And it took a couple years, and I'm kind of still in the process of like figuring out, like, I still have a passion for video production, but what do I do with it? I'm working for other people right now, but I think the point I'm getting at is when you fail on YouTube, it can feel very personal. But to get out of that hole, you want to work with other people and start working with other people because that gets you out of your head. You're
Hmm.
no longer in your own little world. And that can be very healthy. So I'm glad I'm glad that you did that and are doing great. I mean, Think Media is huge.
Yeah, no, they're really awesome, and they're just an amazing group of people to work with. I mean, and plus, like, I looked and I'm like, you know what? Who like Think Media is where I want to be like 10 years from now or 12 years from now, right? So like, how can I position myself under them to learn from them? Because I'm going to make my own business, right? I'm going to like I still have my business, right? And I still contract out one or two people, right, to do stuff. Um, but it's not to the same extent that I had a couple months back, right? My wife was working for me. We had a marketing person. We had a full-time video editor. We had a full-time product guy. Like we had a lot of that going, and it was working well, and we were making money, right? We were able to put some away. Then when we lost everything, that kind of just you surprised how fast money goes
Hmm. So when
when
you
you don't have. Go ahead.
well, when you say that you lost everything, like, can you tell us about like the decline or what happened exactly?
Yeah, so really interesting thing. And I don't think I've gone on like in I don't think I've said this ever in public, right? Of what actually happened and why. I mean, I don't think people even know I went through anything. So, uh really like what happened was like we were doing fine, right? We were doing all that stuff, doing videos, putting out, YouTube tutorials, working on the site. It's been a long time we've been working on that thing.
It looks
A
great.
lot of learning. Anyway, so what happened was that we had our, four clients, right? Those four reliable. We were bringing on another one because we could take that. And it just was like in like a matter of like a week, dude. It was like a perfect storm. Like one client, their clients left, so then they couldn't afford. So okay, they're gone, right? Another client, they literally they were selling their whole business, right? So they didn't need us anymore. Like they were just like straight up getting bought out. So it's like, well, you don't, okay, well, sure, right?
Hmm.
Done. And then the other one, they actually just kind of went under. Like, so, and then the client that we were gonna get, just she was like, yeah, I actually can't right now. So it was like all four, like four out of the, well, what would have been five, right? Four out of the five clients just gone in
Wow.
like a matter of like a week. And
Oh
it's
my
like,
god. Oh my
holy
god.
frick, right? You're talking like, you know, 10 grand just gone, like in a matter of a week. And you're like, dude, my heart is in my throat. I don't know how to do it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, like
Yeah.
you just like feel your heart beating everywhere.
Yeah,
Uh, and, at-
that is rough. Oh my god.
and
Anyway,
at that
continue.
moment, like, I realized, okay, like there's a lot I realized, it's like, okay, even though it was outside of my control, right? Right. A lot of it was not, none of it was like, hey, you're a bad video editor. Hey, you're a bad team, right? None of it was that. Like, dude, we did great stuff. We had shoot days here with our clients and stuff like that. But, it really turned out to be like, you know what, we didn't, there was just things that like I didn't do that I really needed to have done, right? I wasn't paying attention to all of the finance. I really should have had an accountant. Like, shouldn't have been doing it all myself. And I was also, team wise, I think there was. I think from now on, I'm only gonna like hire like true professionals kind of thing. Where it's like, hey, there was just this thing where like we're all like they were trying to learn a lot, and you know what I mean? Like you're in that like weird place where we're all learning, but like they're still learning and the job can't be done as well. And it was a great thing, and I'm really grateful for everybody who was on my team. And there is a lot that I failed to do as a leader, like equipping my people correctly, where I look back and I'm like, you know what? That's where I want to focus on. Like I want to learn from that. Because when I come back and do this again, right, building a team out, doing all of this stuff, this is the leader I want to be,
Hmm.
right? Like I looked at my past failures and said, nope, I see what I did wrong.
So, I guess if you're comfortable, what are some ways you
Sure.
feel like you didn't equip your team enough?
Yeah, so I don't feel like I really was able to, I don't think I casted great vision. Like that is like the driving force behind it. And I feel like I maybe initially I casted great vision, but I didn't sustain that vision to the whole team, right? And it was only like practices that we started to do implement after like a year, right? Which was then starting to build uh, that like vision. So that's already starting to get really late in the whole story because I've only had the business for 2 years, right?
Hmm.
So we started like, and it took almost a year for me to like hire somebody. So it's like, all right, we're like starting to like putting these practices where we're starting to like cast vision and keep everybody into what we're doing and put these like team focused, like all team events or all team meetings every single week or multiple times a week. We started doing that, but man, I should have just started out the gate like this is how we're doing it, right? And then putting clear expectations on what I expect. I didn't do that, right?
Hmm.
I I didn't, right? I wanted to be really like light-hearted, but like like I didn't want to be like rigid to everybody. But also the opposite of that is that I don't have any authority, right? And people just kind of do what they want to do, and you can't expect anything. So it's like I started off really like chill, and then I wasn't screaming or anything, but I always had to be like really composed leader where I'm like, hey, here's actually, here's what we do, here's why we do it, right? I always give people the reason why. I don't ask people why, right? Why were you late, right? I ask what made you late because it just kind of like doesn't feel as like they're on trial. You know what I mean? And if I were to ask you like, hey, why were you late today, right? You're gonna
Right.
feel like, ooh. But if I ask like, what made you, what made you be late today,
Hmm.
right? It feels a little bit like constructive, right? You're wanting to like you're actually wanting to like come up besides the person. So, what I mean, there was just things where I'm like, I didn't keep people up to date on like finance stuff because I think that would have also like really motivated people. Like if we were going through a struggle, I didn't really let people know, and I think that would have helped motivate more.
I see. And for the record, I can really relate to feeling that I wasn't a good enough leader, that I wasn't steering the ship properly. So my
Mhm.
channel, Teresical, like I was the main host. My face or my voice was on most videos, and our system was kind of weird because like we had a team of four, and it
Mhm.
was essentially split evenly, like financially across the board. So there wasn't like a leader. I guess like I should have taken the role of creative director. So in that
Yeah.
sense, I could have taken more of a leadership role, but it could be really difficult. I mean, I'm 30, you're 25. We were and are running these businesses when we're still super young. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna maybe not quite step up to the plate how we would have liked. But it takes a certain amount of energy and experience, and some people are very talented in it. But to run a team and to, as you said, kind of maintain a vision, not just like show it initially, but to kind of show up every week and know how to pivot as things are changing. Like, what do you keep people up to date with? What do you tell them? What is too much?
Mhm.
What is not enough? And
Yep.
then I think when you're editing videos for clients, for instance, and one of your editors sends you something and maybe it's a little off, but you're not sure, and there's just like a million little things that you kind of have to decide, like how am I going to react to this? How am I going to
Yep.
change this, or like criticize without being a dick about it? It's
Or do I, right?
yeah.
Like there's certain things where it's like, you know what, actually it's not even a big deal, right? There's like little things where it's like, you know what? It's for a stroke or no stroke. I really, dude, you know what? Actually, unless it's like this massive bold stroke around a thumbnail, nope. Like that one, maybe I just won't. I'm not gonna fight that battle right now, right? Like choosing which ones to fight, which ones not to fight.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
like
you know,
perfectionism can really get in the way.
yes, perfectionism, and you know, I think though, like, I'm grateful for for like my failure, right? Like as a leader, as a business owner, like, and did I like straight up fail? Did I collapse? Right? Like, I mean, I had a team of 4, and now I have a team of 1, or I had a team of 5, and I have a team of 1 now, right? And I contract out some stuff, and it's mainly just, I mean, I think yeah, I did fail in some regards. That's totally fine. I'm better because of that, right? If I feel like you have to fail, like you have to
You do.
at some point because you need to know, right? There's things that you did or are doing that, okay, hey, look back, reflect. It's a great opportunity, and like failure, being like failing versus being a failure, I think are two different things, right? Like everybody fails at something, right? But I don't identify myself as a failure. That's where the thing is, like failures identify themselves as like that is who I am.
Mm,
Just because I failed doesn't mean I'm a failure, right? That means I'm human and I'm learning. So failures in my mind is like when you build a house, like, you fail and you like stop where you're at and you like build a house and like you just live in that failure. And I'm like, that's not me, right? And it sucks to see people who are like that, who just, I'm done, I'm gonna wallow in it forever. But
seriously. And
I mean,
I,
you have to.
yeah. And so it's an important distinction to, like, between being aware of things that you didn't do correctly versus identifying with those things that you didn't do correctly. And it's like you want to be aware of these things, and that's going to make you feel bad, but you don't
Hmm.
have to, as you said, wallow in it. You can take action and start moving to new horizons based off of what you learned. And I think especially, we're we're in sort of similar parts of life where uh, we've recently had what felt like a big failure, and now we're kind of on the up and up after that. So and it can be really difficult actually, and it's easy to like be bitter about it and to I don't know, even like blame yourself, but also like blame other people. And it's like you want to have a good idea of why things didn't work, but you also you don't want to like let it consume you, or to, it's like you want to feel it but don't
Hmm.
stay in it, and just kind of learn from it
Yeah.
and start moving forward, even if like it feels like you're just putting one foot in front of the other, and like it kind of on some level feels like you're making the right decisions, but maybe you're still kind of full of doubt, you're still reeling from what happened, but that's okay. You just got to keep going, and just keep it up.
I think you have to though. Like the reality is like you have to feel, right? You have to feel that grief of when you do fail, right? Because it sucks. Like, it genuinely sucks. But the one, and something I really learned is like, you need to actually like open up to somebody or people about that, because that's a reality. Like, if you keep negative thoughts on the inside, they're just gonna stay there. Um, and okay, when I started like actually like talking about stuff, it got a lot better, right? And then I was able to actually find clarity from that and realize, okay, hey, here's what I need to actually do, right?
So when you
So,
say talking about stuff, what do you mean?
well, so you know, having just kind of failed, right? I was like, well, I just kind of like went inward, right? I'm a very outgoing person, so I just kind of stopped talking and I just kept thinking and get myself into like a really, just in a bad habit and bad cycles, right? Just freaking like negative and really like down all the time. And, I started finally just opening up to somebody, and I was just like, oh, hey, actually, no, now that I say this junk out loud, I'm hearing it and I'm realizing, oh no, that's not true, right? Like, I myself am believing lies, and as soon as I tell somebody, right, I actually hear it and I'm like, that's actually super wrong. And I've been sitting here believing it because I just didn't hear it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, you're just kind of exposing it. So I mean, it's really like there is a. I feel like every single. I don't say every single, right? Because, but I feel like a lot of YouTubers like they just fail at one time and they have to get back up and keep going, right? I feel like every great business owner had done that, right? You just hear like, oh yeah, I had like 10 businesses before that went under, and it's like, dude, that's like 10 times going through this. This sucks, right? But also, I'm encouraged. I'm like driven, determined to go. You know. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you just, I don't know, like you learn a lot from getting knocked down.
Yeah, and ironically, I there are some people who, for whatever reason, they kind of never quite get knocked down, and I think with that, what can end up happening is you get an ego about yourself, or you start identifying too much with your success, and that
Yep.
can negatively affect your personal life. And then when your
Mm-hmm.
personal life goes south, then it starts affecting your success. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost the universe is going to make you find balance in some way. And, not that if you're successful from the get go and you stay that way, that you're necessarily going to find strife in your personal life. But I think it's very common for that to happen because when things are just always going well for you, uh, I think it's like, in a weird way, it can be hard to relate to a lot of people because
Oh
most
yeah.
of the time, I think people are kind of like, they're trying to figure things out. They're struggling at least a little bit. And if you're the guy who's been raking in millions forever and it's been easy for you, and I don't know, you're just going to be a little out of touch or something. And unless you're hanging out with other out of touch people, which has its own problems, then
Mhm.
you're just gonna things are probably gonna go south for you in one way or another.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I think like I would rather have gone through what I went through than have like straight up success and like long term like and then one day like have my life fall apart because I didn't actually get the lessons that I needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm living a compare my life to like 7 months ago, right? Dude, my life is like way better now. Not just because I work at Think Media, right? But because of the personal things I've learned, and I've learned better discipline, right? And I'm taking care of myself and I'm, doing way better things. Like, dude, I was not taking, I was on the grind, right? But like, I was on the unsustainable grind. The
Right.
grind that like says, hey, you're going to work 80 hours this week and then, or 90 hours, and you're going to do this and you're going to neglect all of these things and you're not going to be happy. And you're going to do it every single week and you're not going to work out and you're going to feel bad and it's only going to hurt you more. Like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad grind. I don't want to be on that grind.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to be
not
on a grind
sustainable.
that sustains.
Yeah, you need to get enough rest and have enough time with people that you love and care about. And even just like time to do nothing, like, is useful. Even from a business standpoint, I think having downtime where you have nothing planned, it kind of opens you up to creativity, you know?
Mhm.
Like even if you're just staring at the wall or something, there's something about having an open schedule that makes your mind more open, and you may discover something because you don't have this tunnel vision where you're constantly working and trying to like
Mhm.
release the next thing. You can kind of focus on the bigger picture more.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So, and that, I mean, I think it's just important to like know these things, right? And I also think I don't think a lot of people actually talk about these types of conversation, have these kind of conversations, where we talk about, hey, this is where I freaking, drove off a cliff, right? Here's where I went wrong, and here's what you can do to not do that. And here's what I learned from this.
So, what advice would you have to somebody who they're like worried they're going to drive off the cliff? They're doing well. They're on the up and up, but they got their eyes peeled. Like, what would you tell that person?
Yeah, I would say like, okay, diversify your income. Okay. You If you lose all income from one stream, you should still be fine, right? If you make all of your money from ad revenue and you get hit with a bunch of random strikes that gives ad revenue to somebody else, dude, you're done, right? Like you need to have some kind of like store or a course, or I mean courses are where it's at, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you really like diversify income, right? Think about income streams, and also like even a little bit more important, I would say, like grow yourself. Like focus on growing yourself, because if you grow yourself, then you're also going to grow your business, right? Like don't just like read book. I mean, read books, right? But read books that are going to educate you and help you get further in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, great, I read books, but it was Aragon, right? Like that's not going to do anything, right? Like is Aragon talking about business and he's talking about leadership? No, he's not. I don't even know what the heck. I mean, my wife read that. I didn't read it.
Well, if your
But
business involves dragons, that could be helpful.
who knows, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some people, they could make a business around that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying like this
Own
is
your niche.
prime opportunity, right? Niche, the dragon niche.
Probably the
So
most important niche. Anyway,
I
continue.
know, right? Honestly, bigger than Minecraft. So yeah, I mean, like focus on building yourself as a leader, and always don't never say that like you've arrived, right? Like at that place. Like you always have something to learn. There's always somebody in front of you. I don't care how successful you think you are. There's always something else you can learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? I hate like humility is probably one of the most important things. It's just I'm not okay. I got something to learn from you, right?
I like.
And
I
go
wanted to
ahead.
say I like what you said about feeling like don't feel like you've arrived. That's good advice because
Yep.
you're never really gonna feel totally content unless you achieve enlightenment or something, which is extremely difficult to do, and you got to move to a monastery or something. It's not practical. And
Yeah.
I think, though, when people hear that, especially to people listening to this who are following their dreams, they want to feel that they've arrived. And hearing that you will never feel that way, it's like, well, what's the point? I want to clarify that doesn't mean you can't find peace of mind, that you can't find
Yep.
contentment. It's more, I think if your goal is to fill a void versus just to build something beautiful that you want to build, then you're going to never really feel that peace of mind. You don't want to be trying to fill a void, at least in the long run. I think it's okay to start by trying to fill a void, but eventually you're going to find that your fuel for what you do isn't pure enough, and you're gonna start
Mm.
sputtering, and something is gonna get off. Something isn't gonna work out for you. So try to, as you say, work on your personal life, read important books, take some relaxation time, do these things to make sure that you have clarity of mind. Hmm.
I mean, because you don't know where you're going, and if you don't know your end goal, how can you plan today, right? You don't if you don't know where you're wanting to end up, right, and what the ultimate goal is, dude, you need to go back to the drawing board, right? Like, what are you doing? I want to make gaming videos. Okay, why? Right? What is your freaking why? Right? Like, I wanted to. Okay, I started this. Why? I want to equip people to become better video editors. Right? I feel like I've done that pretty well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
certainly
like
look like it.
I'm, this enlightened, like I've hit like, cloud nine or something like that. Like, I've just, no, I haven't necessarily like achieved my goal. There's stuff I can still do, but I need to do things differently a bit, right? I'm realizing, okay, people need tools, right? So I'm going to build a store, give them tools, and then I'm also going to continue to add YouTube value, and eventually I'll make a course, because that's really where I think people are going to get a lot of help from. But it takes time, you know? Like, for somebody who's just starting, I mean, if you're somebody who wants to build a business around YouTube, do not think of it as a hobby. Literally, don't do it. It is not if you want it to be your job eventually, don't say I'm doing it for a hobby. Go into it as this is a job. I'm going to build a business around this, because then you'll start thinking about that. You'll start thinking about income,
Hmm.
right? That's, I think, where a lot of people say like, "No, I guess I'm just doing it for a hobby," but like low key they want it. It's like, dude, just say you want it and go hard.
Interesting, because I will often tell people that it can be beneficial to see YouTube as a hobby. But I think what you're saying is like you obviously need a certain amount of dedication. So if you're doing it
Sure.
as a hobby, you may not be motivated enough. The reason
Hmm.
I recommend people view it as a hobby is because you want to be relaxed in your decision making. You don't want to feel that you're trying to pay rent that month. So maybe the important thing is view it like a job or a business, but unless you are super duper comfortable and really know what you're doing, don't rely on the money. It should be
Yeah,
extra
for sure.
money. It's your side hustle. It's your business,
Mhm.
but it's not your only business, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I would want to make that distinction, where I'm saying like the mindset versus the reality, right? Like, if I go into YouTube having 0 subscribers and $0 from AdSense, it's pretty straight. I'm probably not going to have money for at least another 6 months from YouTube, right? Like, with the growth cycle, I mean, unless you really like know what you're doing, which, I mean, some people know how to get, monetized in like a day, right? Great, cool. Um, that's, very few people. So the vast majority of people are going to say, all right, cool, this is where I want to be, as this is my job. So I want that mindset going forward. However, it's not my income right now, right?
Hmm.
But if you're like, hey, I just really want to do this as a hobby, right? And you're not looking for money, and you're really not looking to make it a job. And even if the money came, you're still going to stay at your job. Dude, that's a hobby, right? That's a hobby right there. So like, the mindset though, because you'll think, when you think of it like a job, you're gonna puts more buy-in, but it also makes you work more towards it, because it is your side hustle,
Hmm.
right?
And
It is that thing.
I think it can help you be more objective too. When
Yeah.
you're trying to bleed your heart out into every video, that's cool, but you also might drive yourself crazy and end up like redoing the same thing 5 times when really the first time was totally good.
Yeah.
When you got to do a job, then you end up, I think, being more practical, and you do need a certain level of practicality, even though YouTube is a creative space. If you don't have a certain level of objectivity about what you're doing, if you're not somewhat removed from the process, then you're just gonna end up flailing around. And I mean, we've all met somebody who, they're like 30 or 40, they still live at home, and
Yep.
they've never really worked a job, and there's something just like woefully impractical about these people, and they can't, I don't know, they just don't really understand the world enough.
They can't handle the world.
And yeah, and exactly,
That's
exactly.
true. Like they can't.
And the same thing kind of goes for YouTube. If it's not a job, if you're not taking it seriously, then don't expect to get
Be
success out of
Mr.
it.
Beast.
Yeah, yes,
Don't
exactly.
expect to play at big levels when you have small commitment.
And by the way, I've made this mistake for sure. I mean, I have a personal channel that I don't really advertise much. It's just a passion project channel, but that's
Hmm.
it. I never saw it as a job. I was just trying to make the best videos I could, and they are weird, far out, super cool videos. But they took forever to make. I made like 5, I think, within a year, which
Mm.
isn't exactly the biggest release schedule. But I didn't see huge growth or anything. I'm glad I made the videos. For me, I'm kind of a weird guy. Like, it sounds like you got some of this in you too. Maybe a lot of it is, if I have an idea, I like have to do it. And if I don't do it, then I go crazy and I get like really depressed. So with me, this personal channel, I was making videos on the weirdest topics like ghosts and fairies and cyborgs
Mm.
and like weird stuff. But I had to make these videos because if I didn't, I was gonna lose my mind. And even though they didn't like serve a monetary purpose, at least not yet, uh, a part of me has been, I guess, calmed because now they're done.
Yep.
They're out there. I did it. There we go. Okay, are you happy now, brain? You can stop thinking about this.
Yeah, and I think there's like, because I have that in me, right? And I've had to learn how to deal with that because, like, and it reminds me of a quote that I don't know whether it was like Steve Jobs or Tim Cook said, but he says like Apple is essentially where it's at because of the things that we chose not to do, right?
Hmm.
Because the things we said no to, or the product we didn't release. So it's like, okay, there are things that I have in my mind, right, where I'm like, I really want to do this, that I'm like, no, that's a back burner thing right now because this is what you're doing and this is where you want to be going. And when you have millions of dollars and people working for you and all that stuff, you can do that, right? And if also I can make the time on the side to do my fun thing, whatever passion project, the video thing like you were doing, great, right? And I totally get that. Like I've uploaded some videos on other channels where I'm like, I just want to see if it would work. And cool, it did, right? Like okay, great, but I didn't continue on with it because I just I didn't have the infrastructure down, right?
Hmm.
Um, like I tried TikTok stuff a few times on like
Naturally.
under different names, right? And like a couple of videos, just like the first couple of videos I put out, like millions of views each, and I'm just like, cool, cool. But also that translates to $0 in anything,
Well,
right? So I
you
got to
can
so
monetize TikTok now, can't you?
yeah, but back then you really couldn't.
Mm. Wow.
Maybe
So
now you could.
did you didn't keep releasing videos on TikTok after that? I mean, that's still a good amount of validation. That's some kind of payment.
Oh yeah, I mean that's in what like $200 or something like that, maybe,
Mm. Not too shabby.
maybe.
$200.
So like it's not like yeah, no, right, not shabby for a whole year or whatever. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess it just came down to what I needed to focus on. Like what was most important for me to do right now, especially with like the amount of energy I had to give. And it's like, all right, I don't have this energy right now to also put my everything into this second thing. So when I do that, because I will, uh, I want to go full send, right?
Right
That's just
on.
how I kind of am.
Beautiful. And it sounds like you didn't go out of your way to chase clout, which is healthy and is probably a reason that you feel as good as you do today. Some people, I think, would have seen millions of views on TikTok and they instantly just would have flocked towards it and just kept posting just to try to be famous. And
Yeah.
I think trying to be famous is dangerous. It's very dangerous.
having millions of views but having millions of followers, but no way to but let's say you just don't have a way to monetize it, right? That's vanity numbers right there.
Seriously.
Like it's meaningless.
Yeah.
Great, you can't pay rent, but you have a million followers.
And being famous
Awesome.
and broke sounds like the worst of both worlds.
I know.
Like you're getting all this attention, and I guess attention's nice, but it really depends on the attention. And if you're not getting money for that, oh my god, like what is
Brutal.
life? What is life?
I know. Now there is that sense, and I know that we have to go soon, but I do want to say, like, for people who are starting out, literally don't expect like your first 30 to 50 videos, don't even like if they don't get any view, if they get barely any views, whatever, right? Think of those as learning videos. They are experimenting, you're trying new things, you're seeing what you like. You're also building a future library for people to binge. Okay? So odds are you're not going to start out tomorrow and make a million, get a million views on a video. Nor would I don't think anyone I mean, people want that, right? But I think when they get it, they realize that, oh, frick, this was not what I wanted. Because it just comes with so much more, right? People blowing up your DMs and you not having the right kinds of, systems put in place to deal with that kind of inflow of people. But, like, you need to build up that library for like long-term success,
Mm-hmm.
and answer simple questions. That's pretty much how you're gonna like build a big library, is like just answer questions about things, whether it's a game. Hey, how do you do this? Great. Make a 2-minute tutorial about it. People will go to it because people look up things like that.
They sure do.
You know?
Well,
Yeah.
you got a lot of wisdom, Billy. I really respect that. Like you've clearly kind of kept your head above water during this whole crazy YouTube and personal business journey. Not everybody can say that, and I'm just saying props to you. Like you got your head screwed on straight, and you took a hit, you got back up, and now you're
Mhm.
doing super well. I think this is a real YouTube journey. Sometimes
Yeah.
I say YouTube journey ironically, but you have certainly been on a real journey, and I got mad respect for that.
Well, and so have you. So like, and you get a lot of what I've gone through. Like,
Hmm.
dude, you sounds like you've went through a fair amount of this stuff as well.
Yeah, it was rough for a while,
Yeah.
and but that's how it goes. It tests you, and you you keep moving forward, and eventually you're like, oh hey, life's pretty good now. Cool, I did it. Right on. On to the next thing.
Yeah, and like yesterday's failures leads to today's successes. Like it does. So, I mean, what can you learn? Right? That's how, like, when I fail at something, I'm like, what can I learn from this? Even though it sucks and I'm sad, what can I learn so I don't do this again? And so I'm better next time.
Words to live by. Well, Billy Rybka, why don't you tell people where they can find you and just pitch whatever you want to pitch right now? Be shameless.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Billy Rybka, RYB as in boy, KA. And if you are looking for dope DaVinci Resolve templates that do speed up your workflow and your editing process, go to brmediapro.com. You can check out all the stuff that we have there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Billy. And for you watching or listening, I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.